to the, I don't know, the 15th day of It's Your Life. And I was just saying to Amber was asking me, you know, is this ongoing? And I said, yeah, I guess so, because I'm having so much fun. It is great to see so many people every night, to have some kind of a positive routine every night. Yeah. So many people, maybe when it's here, it's 8 o'clock now in Dubai where I am. So when it's 8 o'clock, a lot of people would sit in front of the TV and turn on the news. Well, this is the time to turn on your Zoom and be here with us, right, Amber?
Absolutely.
Okay, for the ones who don't know me, my name is Mona Abderrahim Santel, and I'm the owner of Mind Your Power. Mind Your Power really symbolizes what I believe in. It's the power of your mind. And when I started that series 2 weeks ago, it was because so many people know and understand the power of the mind. And one of the people who really, really, really understands it is Amber Cox. Amber is with us tonight. Amber is from Maine, from the US. Amber is a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner and an emotional intelligence specialist. Amber works a lot with fears, anxieties, pain. And she was just telling me earlier that 80% of people, that clients that she sees, all diseases are stress related, which, yes, of course, nowadays every doctor will tell you this. Amber today will talk to you about how to hack your brain. She will give you nice techniques that you can, easy techniques and quick techniques that you can do. And yeah, so I don't know what else she wants to say, so I'll just turn the camera to her. And Amber, welcome. I'm so happy and glad to have you here. It's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And happy to be here and happy to share some of my knowledge and experience and what I've learned. So, you know, what you were saying about your, you know, mind your power, you know, and the power of the mind. Over the last 12 years that I've been working in this field, it's really been mind-blowing how much your brain chemistry and your brain state affects your physiology. And the research out there really corroborates, you know, how much stress is a huge component in our physical and emotional well-being. And I think the percentages are like 80% of stress affects everybody. And it can manifest into, you know, things like, you know, depression, addictions, chronic pain, overeating. It manifests in all kinds of ways. And so, you know, a lot of the training that I've done is really about understanding and doing a lot of research on my own and a lot of reading about emotional brain states. One of the reasons that I love working with emotional intelligence is because, for one, it starts to create the awareness of what's really going on with us, and to really create the awareness is the key to change. And then as a hypnotist, using, you know, skills like NLP and hypnosis and other quick techniques can help to very quickly change a brain state that is, you know, in distress or agitated or whatever, and really level and neutralize it. And it's very powerful, and it really is brain science. I refer to a lot in my work. I've done a lot of research with a woman named Laurel Mellon, and she is at the university. She's a professor and a psychologist at the University of San Francisco, and she's very, very well published. And she's done over 20 years study of the brain, and that the brain is actually plastic and we can rewire it. You know, plasticity, wire, you know, new thoughts, new feelings, new behavior. So this is science-based. Also the work of Jeffrey Schwartz, who is a psychologist and a doctor. He's at UCLA, and he's very well published on actually rewiring your brain. So those are kind of like some of the references that I throw out there. So, you know, part of what's really I think so important for people to understand is that stress in life, it's normal. It's part of life. It's part of being human. And, we're, at a very primal level, we're, very wired and can be, in that fight or flight state to kind of like react. But we can also, train our brain in a very different way to, even though we can't control what's going on, like the situation right now with everything that's affecting the world right now. And this is, as the words ring in my ears, unprecedented. Nothing, there's never been anything, like this in my lifetime, and certainly a lot of my colleagues and my friends' lifetime. So that's, incredible stressful situation. So for me, this understanding like how you can control your brain state and doing some quick techniques is incredibly empowering. And as I said, although you can't control what's going on in your surroundings, a lot of time you can control your internal response to it. So what I'll do is I'm going to kind of lead into the different brain states and what actually happens when we're triggered and we're under stress, and the stress hormone and things along that line. So as I talk about this, and what I find is I go over this pretty much with every client that I work with. And as I said, it's very powerful because once you really understand that you're not your behavior, you can change that, like how you're coping to a healthier way. It is incredibly empowering, and it makes sense because it's scientific research, So and so within that, it becomes very, very powerful, that place of understanding. So in the work that I study and the approach I take in the brain states, what happens is, and this is from the research of Laurel Mellon, that there are 5 different regions of the brain. And when we're affected by stress, which stress is normal in life, and as I said, and things, that are out of our control, what happens is in the regions of the brain, the very, very primal is the lower part of the brain, the primal region. And that's kind of like that when you're in fight or flight and, like a lion's chasing you and nothing else really matters. That's the when your brain declines. And from there, it goes up to like 5 different levels. The very, I would say, optimal level of functioning is in the very frontal lobe of the brain. And in that part of the brain, what happens is you're feeling great, you feel compassion, you may feel joy, your relationships are intimate, things like that. And then when we start to get a little stressed, what happens is that brain starts to decline and go to a lower region. And then you go from feeling kind of stress, no stress, to maybe a little. You still feel pretty good. You still feel pretty solid and stable, balanced. You can still have compassion. Your relationships are still healthy. And then when you get a little more stress, it goes down to an even lower region. And at that region, what happens is people become more rigid. They are not as flexible. They get very mixed feelings. Socially, the relationships become a little unstable. Their behavior maybe is not as steady and predictable and calm. And then the next level is a very stressed state, and that's even a lower level right below that primal fight or flight. And in that, people are really reactive. And I think there's a lot of that going on right now, where people are really reactive, unbalanced, very needy, very fearful, can create unhealthy relationships because it's, of everything, like I said, this unprecedented time. So everything's even magnified. And then in a full blown, say, like stress and panic attack, what happens is people become irrational. There's no compassion. People are terrified. Relationships can become destructive. Does that make sense? So as you understand that, this is actually a chemical reaction going on in the brain. This is what happens to all human beings. So I think the really important thing to take away from what I just shared is that it's human, but it can be intercepted. So the first key to it is realizing like, oh, I'm starting to get stressed. And then to have that awareness of, okay, what's going on for me? And then from there, what you do is you introduce an exercise, a technique to actually hijack your brain. So what it does is it neutralizes the emotion and it tells the brain to go in a different direction. Like, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this. And actually the best opportunity to rewire your brain is when you're in that state, when you're realizing you're getting stressed, or you're kind of stuck in that very stressful state or very reactive state, or panicky. That's the best time, because that is when you intercept and do one of these techniques, that it actually changes the pathways. And so, and part of this is also repetition. So the more you do it, the more, in your brain is going to be like, no, I'm not going here. I'm not going to decline further. I'm going to go here. I'm going to neutralize. And then I'm going to do something that's going to calm me down. And when you do a couple of the techniques that I'm going to share, you have many of them, but I'm going to share a couple today. What happens is you excrete different hormones from your brain that are like oxytocin, serotonin, and they're the opposite of the stress-inducing hormones, which is cortisol and adrenaline. And so there's the brain science that's going on. And so what it does is it just says, okay, I'm kind of kicking a bully to the curb. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. Now, the great realization of this is understanding that this is normally how this is for everyone, how the brain functions. So, if someone, right now, currently and historically, wellness is becoming, bigger and bigger in lifestyle. But this understanding emotional brain training and utilizing techniques to help, like self-care and calm down, are so important, because what happens is a lot of people, when they're stressed out, when they're carrying that stress and they're in a stress pattern, go to the doctor. A lot of times a prescription is given, and I'm not going to knock that. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but there's also a big opioid crisis going on, right? So what's happening is that that approach isn't being balanced with self-care and self-awareness and empowering tools that a person can employ on their own. So what happens is, when you can take a moment to apply some of these techniques, what you're doing is you're kind of like in a place of self-acceptance and awareness, and you can kind of give yourself something you need. And then you can release those chemicals that are actually doctors prescribe, whether, it's Prozac or things like that. We have kind of those natural things in our brain. So what that allows you to do is to release those. And when you start to really get in touch with the awareness of, like, what's really going on for me? What's that deeper need? What do I need to feel, or just allow myself, or to accept? What happens is you're actually getting to the root of it. You're not treating a symptom, like just a depression or overeating or addiction or chronic pain with more medicine. What you're actually doing is, what is really going on for me? Am I fearful? Do I have safety needs? Do I need acceptance? Do I need respect? Is it self-recognition? Do I need to self-soothe? Do I need to connect to joy? And so what happens is, this is understanding and really allowing yourself to go through this process is incredibly healing, because you're actually adding that element of getting to the root of it. It's not masking it, but it's creating that awareness, and awareness is the key to change. And so that's what I really love about this. Now, is everybody familiar with Maslow's theory, hierarchy of needs? Maybe some are, maybe some are not. The reason that I'm bringing that into this is because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is basically, it's a pyramid, and it basically, at the very top of it, it's self-actualization and purpose. That's when we're really in our zone, when we're feeling really good, really joyous. We feel connected to purpose. We have compassion. And then from there, that's the very top. That's what we, as human beings we all, aspire to, feeling our best version of us. Why are we here? What's our purpose? Things like that. So, and then underneath that is like self-esteem, belonging, recognition. And then you go down to love and family. And then underneath that is safety needs. So it's like personal security, employment, your resources. And then the very bottom level are psychological needs, physiological needs, which is food and water and shelter. So why I bring this into here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs goes way back. And it's basically, if you, it's very hard for you to go up that pyramid to self-actualization if you don't have those other needs met. And I love to pair that up with brain states because as I've described this, the very basic and at the bottom, it's very primal. We have to be able to feel safety and security to have our basic needs met before we can kind of move on. So when you're in a stressful blown state, you're kind of in that state of like, I can't think of anything else. I'm too stressed out. Like I can't think about anything else. All I know is that I don't have these basic needs taken care of. And I think it's a very interesting thing to pair up with brain states. And so, at the end of this talk, if anybody wants, I have a document on brain states paired up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so you can kind of reference them and what happens when your brain state starts to decline from stress. So I'd be happy to share that with anyone. And I thought that made perfect sense because those are both, based on theory and based on, human psychology and brain states and the things that go on chemically in our brain when we're stressed. So I'm going to go into some techniques for you. This makes sense for everybody so far, and then I can open it up to questions on how to really take control of your brain state and to calm yourself down. And I would invite you all to also, think about, I know there's some hypnotists here and when I say what I'm going to say next, the hypnotists will absolutely, and NLPers will absolutely get this, is that we're a product of our thoughts. We're creating our reality by how we think about things, the situation around us. And although we can't control a lot of the circumstances, we can control our internal state. And if we're in controlling our internal state and sending out positive and comforting hormones and thoughts to our body, then what happens is when we're in tough times, when we're in times where we're really challenged, we're able to better cope and deal with that. And also it affects our well-being. I work a lot with, in my past in the medical field and with cancer patients with chronic pain. And a big component of that is stress related. And when we're in a constant state of stress, what's happening is that cortisol spike, the stress hormones, stay in our system for a period of time. And if we don't take a few minutes to take care of our emotional brain, what happens is, imagine your body's like a bank account. And you're continually dripping into that bank account. You're continually putting into it like this excess of like stress and cortisol and adrenaline. What you want to think about doing is taking time to actually put in the other calming hormones like oxytocin and serotonin and things like that into your bloodstream. So if you were to think about, like I said, your body as a bank account, you want more of that positive currency, the more of the happy hormones, the calming hormones in your system than of the cortisol to help kind of keep you in check. And the cortisol and that fight or flight, it's very important. I mean, it's a very protective, it serves a purpose, but when we're in that state a lot, it has a major impact on our health, and there's lots of research out there that, correlates like, chronic stress to different things like high blood pressure, heart disease, cardiovascular, chronic pain, like I was saying, depression, all kinds of things, addiction. So that being said, I'm just going to, lead into a couple of the techniques to give you here today that are super easy. And I have others to share. If you reach out to me, I'm happy to. I like to share these. And as I said, they're very simple, but they're very powerful because of all the things that they're doing when you're employing these techniques. Okay, so to kind of just go back, the best time to hijack your brain is when you're aware that, okay, I'm feeling stressed. And you can even take a measurement of your stress scale of 0 being I'm not stressed at all, and 10 being I'm off the charts, right? So you can kind of measure that for yourself so that you have a point of reference. And so basically what you do is you have that self-awareness. Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little stressed. I don't even know, maybe you don't even know why. Because stress imprints can be very old, from very young age, that we carry with us as well. And so say you're starting to feel a little stressed, and you can kind of measure where you're at on that. What you do is you realize it. Okay, I'm realizing it, and kind of have the awareness of what's going on with me. What am I needing right now? Am I feeling threatened? Why am I feeling agitated? What do I need to do? And so to calm yourself down, one of the things that you can do is coming back to breath, which is a very, very powerful and simple thing. And I'm going to tell you a couple different ways to breathe. And actually to do a very, very intentional breathing, because when you're breathing intentionally, we're a society of shallow breathers for the most part. And when you really do intentional deep breathing, what also happens is you release more oxytocin, you release more serotonin, you also stimulate something called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from your brain all the way down to your gut. If you don't know anything about the vagus nerve, make friends with it. Research it. It has all kinds of healing properties when it's stimulated. It's great for your immune system. It's great for your sleep. It releases melatonin. So when you're doing this intentional breathing technique, that's why it's important to do it this way. Plus, most of your air sacs are in the lower quadrants of your lungs. So when you're doing a deeper breathing, you're getting more bang for your buck. So because you're getting down into the lower quadrants where most of the air sacs are, stimulating the vagus nerve, releasing the hormones and the happy hormones. So simply, the first step would be to just allow yourself to be aware. And this is a really important step, because this is where you do something different. A lot of people stuff it. A lot of people eat. A lot of people might drink. A lot of people might spend. A lot of people just might, lay around or be immobilized. So this is the part where you think, this is uncomfortable. I'm going to do something. I'm going to realize it. I'm going to just create that awareness for myself. And I'm going to intercept it. I'm going to hijack my brain, because I know what's going on. I know this is human nature, and I know that I can be in control of this. So you basically can rate it, say, right now, hypothetically, I'm on a 6. So you basically, okay, that's where I'm at. I'm kind of stressed. I'm feeling, a little triggered. And then what you do is you introduce a breathing technique. You could do a sequential, like a 3-3-6, a 4-4-8, a 5-5-10 breathing. And this is super simple. You just breathe in for a slow count of 4. If you choose the 4-4-8, hold for a count of 4, and then breathe all the way out. And on the last breath, really get all the air out of your lungs, because then you're getting, when you're inhaling on the 4 and breathing in as much as you can, you're getting a nice deep breath. So you're getting in the lower quadrants and stimulating the vagus nerve, and then you're holding. But then when you're breathing out for 8 and you're breathing all the way out and kind of pushing your stomach out, on that last count, pretend that you have like a candle lit, like a little tea light or candle on your palm. And with that last breath, really get all that air out. And that's going to, again, do all of those great things, release those chemicals, and do that for like a minute. And that's going to neutralize that feeling. It's going to acknowledge the feeling instead of stuff it or numb out or do something that's unhealthy. And it's going to help to rewire your brain. So it's doing all these awesome things by simply intentionally breathing. Another great exercise, and I think this is one of my favorite ever breathing exercises, is I call it breaths of gratitude, because there's always a silver lining. Gratitude is a wonderful thing to connect to joy, to connect to, and it doesn't have to be something earth-shattering. I mean, it could be a cup of coffee. It could be, a beautiful scene, you know, out your window. It could be shelter. It could be just a loving connection. You know, the best of gratitude technique is basically what you would do is you would take a deep breath in, breathe all the way in, and think of something you're grateful for. And as you think, you can see, you know, maybe it's a face of someone you love, or a memory, or purpose, or a connection. But just think of what that is. And then exhale. And then take another breath. And think of another thing that brings you joy, that you're grateful for, that you could be thankful for, that resonates with you. Then exhale. And take another deep breath in. And bring another one of those thoughts in. And then exhale. Now, in this exercise, I do this for a full minute. I slow down my breathing to about 10 breaths a minute. And within that, when you're connecting in this way, you're creating compassion. You're accessing a higher region of your emotional brain. You're releasing all those chemicals. This is brain science. You're calming yourself down, and you're actually promoting internal healing. In order to heal our bodies, we have to create an internal environment to do that. And these two techniques do absolutely that. This, like I said, this is brain science. This is research. There are years and years of research on this and how the emotional brain works. And so with the breaths of gratitude, I also invite you to think about even connecting a color to the thought. You know, a bright color, a color that's tranquil, a color that calms you down. And what you're doing is you're sending all those messages out that are having a major impact over the emotional and physical well-being in your body. You're building up more of a surplus of the oxytocin, of the serotonin in your body than you are cortisol. So it's really taking that ground back. And I would actually encourage you to do this daily, not just reactively, which is a great opportunity. That's the best opportunity when you're in the state to rewire your brain, because it's a pattern. So when you're in the pattern, it's very, very powerful to do it. But also to breathe proactively, so that when you're faced with stressful times, you have more of a surplus of the oxytocin and the serotonin than you do of the cortisol. So you're going to be more grounded in your decisions. You're going to be more able to employ more of a logical brain. So what you're doing is you're kind of employing both parts. You're not completely driven by emotion, but you've got some logic and some calmness there to face the situations in life. And let's face it, life is, you know, no one gets out unscathed, right? This is life. We all have challenges. We all have, it's part ups and downs. It's part of being human. It's part of what makes us, but we can take control of how it directly impacts our emotional and physical well-being. And we can do that very quickly. We can change states very quickly. It's been proven, you know, we're in one of like 6 states all the time. You know, we're either in a past negative or positive, a current negative or positive, or a future negative positive. And we move. So this is, as I said, proactively taking control to promote that internal wellness, to release the chemicals that are going to keep your body healthy and well, and your immune system, and combat tension and inflammation and things like that. But another great techniques are introducing bilateral stimulation. Basically, bilateral stimulation is doing a simple activity that when you're in those brain states and you're thinking, okay, my brain's declining, I need to get control of this runaway train. So you've got the 2 breathing techniques, but you could also introduce bilateral stimulation, and it's just a word that says, I'm going to access a different hemisphere of my brain. I'm not going to stay in my emotional brain, which is the amygdala, which kind of gets off balance, and that's why the decline happens. I'm going to employ another strategy from bilateral stimulation, which again, as I said, is doing something simple where I can't stay here in my brain. I have to go here to do this. A very simple, and this isn't a real thorough on how to do this. I don't know if everybody can see me, but basically what you would do is you would get like a piece of fruit or a stress ball or keys or something that you could toss right across your meridian from one hand to another and just focus on that for like a minute. That's the simple version of it. But what it does is it interrupts that state. It neutralizes. It's a break state or a pattern interrupt. And it's like, oh, I can't stay here. I've got to go over here to do this. So it's not possible for you to stay in the depth of that emotion, if that makes sense. Another very simple technique is to pick a spot on the wall, anywhere in front of you, just one spot, and focus all your attention on the spot. And as you focus your attention, you just expand your peripheral out with your breath. I can still see my fingers here. And then bring it in. And then out. And kind of notice what you can see still in the room you're in or whatever you're doing. And then bring it back in. And do that for a minute. So those are 4 quick techniques. Now, as I said, the bilateral stimulation, like I said, it's neutralizing. It's a pattern interrupt. The breathing is actually releasing all of those really awesome hormones to put that positive currency in your body and create that internal environment of well-being. So those are the techniques that I wanted to share with you today. Hope this makes sense to you. Pretty much everybody that comes into my office, my clients, the underlying thing that's going on with them is a stress. And that stress is manifesting in either a pain, chronic pain, a depression, a lack of joy, overeating, over drinking, fear, debilitating fear, smoking. And what it comes back to is this type of, I use this with every client, because what happens is when you do create that awareness, what's going on with me, you acknowledge yourself instead of stuffing it or checking out and doing a habit that's not good for you. So I use this, and it's very, very effective. The bilateral stimulation, the breathing, it's amazing. It's amazing how it leaves you feeling. And there's a cumulative effect. So as you use this as you need it in a reactive way, but if you invite you to think about using it proactively, the breathing, you'll find you'll just have more of a sense of calm and groundedness in your life. I promise you that.
That's fabulous, Amber. And I think that's exactly what people want nowadays. They want quick, fast techniques that work. Many people think that it takes a lot of time to change. Yeah. So exactly what you shared here, that's perfect for so many people who will also watch the replay. People who maybe have no idea about breathing. Yeah. So thank you so much for all these techniques.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And, and the other thing that I just wanted to say in closing is that a lot of times, these stress patterns, they're patterns that people have been in for a very long time. And the coping mechanism that they've chosen, a lot of times is not healthy, but it's what they've done to make them feel better immediately. And that's why it's so important to understand how the brain works and how it releases chemicals, because it separates the behavior, it gets to the root cause. Another reason why I love hypnosis and NLP is because it actually, within that, it even takes it a step further to go, a lot of times when we work in hypnosis, we're working with an unfavorable state. And we can, go in with that too and do change work, as you said, and it can happen very, very quickly, very, very quickly. So if anybody wants, I have other quick techniques. I have a small little pamphlet that has other various techniques that people can use that I share freely, that I put together for people to help them manage stress and neutralize those feelings. So I'm happy to share that as well. Like you said, it's something that I'm happy to share openly, and utilize it. It will help you tremendously.
Amber's contact details, her website, and everything will be in the link to the replay. You will get it also with the email that you'll get tomorrow, so you will have access to contact Amber. I will also share it below the YouTube video so everybody can have
Just
it.
thank you, everyone that tuned in, for your interest. I'm so grateful. And, you know, I just wish everybody well and to stay safe and connected in some way. And I also want to, you know, say to everyone, you know, I don't just say these things. I use them, and I've had a lot of very big challenges in my life, especially in the last year. And these techniques have been a lifesaver for me. They're very empowering. They work. And just, you know, I can't emphasize enough that you're so much, you know, we as human beings are so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit a lot of times. So I hope these help you. Be well, be safe. And I hope you enjoyed this and got something really great out of it. And I appreciate your time and your attention and interest. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amber. Thank you, all of you, for listening in, for sharing your wonderful comments here. And yeah, all the best for everybody.